Hello humans, I am the Black Cat and welcome to Movie Review Monday. Today we finally finish off the Chucky movie set with Cult of Chucky. This has taken a really long time because life happens, blah blah blah. So Cult of Chucky was released in 2017, directed by Don Mancini and starring Alex Vincent as Andy Barclay, Brad Dourif as Chucky, Fiona Dourif as Nika, Michael Theriault as Dr. Foley, Zach Sandiego as Nurse Carlos, Maria Stevenson Kerr as Angela, Adam Herting as Michael, Grace Ling Kang as Claire, Elizabeth Rosen as Madeline, and of course Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany Valentine. Okay, so it's been a couple of years since the end of Curse of Chucky. Nika was charged with killing her sister, her brother-in-law, and their nanny. And because she said that Chucky did it, she was deemed mentally insane and sent to a hospital for the criminally insane. However, over the years, they felt she had made progress, so they sent her to a minimum security hospital for the mentally ill. So this is where the plot of Cult kicks off. Somehow the doctor gets hold of a Chucky doll and brings it to the hospital in order for Nika to work on her issues, I guess. Somehow. Or he's just twisted, because there's a later scene that shows Andy showing the doctor that Chucky is real, but he doesn't believe him. Maybe the doctor just wanted to keep Nika there because he's a perv, so he used the Chucky doll to try and make her go crazy. So basically, there's a Chucky doll in the hospital. Then Tiffany shows up to tell Nika that Alice is dead. Remember Alice, Nika's niece? In the end of Curse of Chucky, Alice was about to be possessed by Chucky. At this stage, we don't really know what happened to Alice, but Tiffany gives Nika another Chucky doll. So now there's two dolls in the hospital. So Chucky is going around and killing people. Andy finds out about it and decides he needs to get there to kill off the dolls. So he gets himself committed overnight, apparently, which is a bit ridiculous because there's no way he would be committed overnight just for punching a security guard. Another Chucky doll is sent to the hospital, so now there's 3 Chuckies in the hospital. So basically, Tiffany and Chucky, it seems to imply that they're trying to build a cult with several Chuckies as members. With this movie being in a hospital setting, they definitely went for the white minimalist look. Every shot is very bare, there's very little colour. Even outside, with there being snow on the ground, everything is covered with white. Except in the doctor's office, which in contrast has dark walls and gold features. The office made me think of in old movies when they represent the devil in his office, like an evil guy in power, which I think kind of fits the doctor. One element that didn't fit well was the various different screen effects they used. There's these weird split screens that appear in the middle of the movie, and later the split screen is replaced with a feathered split screen, which is weird and is never used again. Then there's this random dolly zoom that didn't really fit the scene at all. So it's very much like, oh, let's try and use heaps of effects that don't really fit, but we just use them once and then never again. The majority of this movie uses practical effects. Puppetry was a major component. I'm glad that's one thing they stuck with. There was, however, some use of CGI, but I don't think it dominated. It was more used to assist the practical special effects. There was one weird scene with the giant Chucky standing over Nika that looked pretty funny, but it was a dream sequence, so it's excusable, I guess. My favourite shot in this movie would probably be when Chucky breaks the glass to kill Claire. There's a nice slow-mo shot of the glass falling. This kill definitely reminds me of Tiffany breaking the mirror. I guess Chucky was inspired by Tiffany's creativity. Overall, in my opinion, this movie was kind of a mess. Chucky apparently found out how to possess multiple dolls and people at once. And I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. So if you haven't seen it, maybe, I don't know, don't watch it. He doesn't try to kill Nika, which is what I originally thought. I thought, yeah, it makes sense he would go after her because she got away and she tormented him about not being able to finish like he did with Andy. He wasn't able to finish the job. It made sense that he would want to finish it with her, but he doesn't want to kill her, which to me didn't make sense, and I'll get to why later. I did like the idea of bringing Andy back, but I think they really dropped the ball with him. I've mentioned before that one of my pet peeves is the inclusion of pointless characters, and unfortunately in this, the last Chucky movie, Andy became a pointless character. He didn't really do anything. He didn't add anything. The final scene just seemed to be tacked on, like, oh yeah, we need to wrap up the whole Andy thing, let's shoot this scene. It probably didn't go that way, to be fair, but that's how it felt when watching it. Another main problem that came up, and fair warning, this is a spoiler, when Chucky possesses Nika, she just stands up and starts walking, even using her legs to kill someone. Like, I mean, that would imply that her being paralyzed was mental and not physical, but in the last movie we learnt that Chucky caused her disability by stabbing her mother in the stomach while she was pregnant. Not to mention the fact that she's never used her legs her entire life. People who have been in wheelchairs for a shorter time need rehabilitation exercises to get back on their feet, so to speak. But no, this woman is able to stand, walk, and kill within seconds with no worries. And let's talk about the random, out-of-nowhere jump scare.
It's awful. Angela, we can all see you.
There's no other jump scare in the entire movie, but let's just throw in a jump scare out of nowhere that makes no sense at all. Also, by the end, either the acting, the directing, or the writing seemed to just stop caring. It became rather cringy, even for a Chucky movie. So the question is, would I watch it again? Well, I certainly won't be rushing to watch it again. It doesn't really stand out for me. And now, ladies and germs, it's time to give my final thoughts on the franchise as a whole. The Chucky saga spans over 7 movies and 3 decades. So let's break it down to what I liked about the franchise and what I didn't like. Let's start with what I liked. The main point I really liked was the fact that the same people worked on almost every movie, starting with the original creator Don Mancini, continuing to write all of the movies and direct most of them. I also believe the puppeteers and special effects crew were the same throughout. There's also the actors. Obviously Brad Dourif, he's been the voice of Chucky since the beginning. Every movie has the same voice, which I love. And of course, Jennifer Tilly, continuing to come back as Tiffany for 4 movies. Besides Part 3, Andy was also consistently played by the same person, Alex Vincent, who came back in the last 2 movies as an adult. Another point I really liked was the use of puppetry. Even though they did indulge in CGI in the later movies, Chucky was pretty consistently made with the use of puppets and puppeteers. The last thing you'd want to see is a completely CGI Chucky through an entire movie. As a horror fan, I much rather see practical special effects, even if it looks bad, over CGI any day. I think CGI definitely helps and should coexist with practical, but I don't think a movie should rely solely on CGI alone. One thing I would recommend if you bought the DVD or Blu-ray of Cult of Chucky is to watch the bonus features. One of them, I can't remember what it's called, has the puppeteers showing how they bring Chucky to life. It's a good watch and it's definitely interesting. Okay, now what I didn't like. Here's the thing, I'm not very tech savvy when it comes to the bones side of movie making. I'm definitely more of a story kitten. To me, if the story or plot is interesting, then it doesn't matter if the technical side of things isn't great. But that's where I feel the Chucky franchise fails. The story is so inconsistent. One thing I don't like in movie franchises is when they introduce an element that wasn't there before. Prime example is Friday the 13th, Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, where they introduce Jason's sister, and the whole possession by mutant slug. Don't introduce some new story-changing element that didn't exist in the beginning. So the first 3 movies, Chucky needs the first person he reveals himself to in order to transition into their body. Then in Bride and Seed, he needed the amulet, an amulet that was never mentioned before. The whole plot of Bride of Chucky was getting the amulet so they could transfer into human bodies. Then in the last 2 movies, the amulet wasn't mentioned at all. So what is it? What gets me is that they're so good at maintaining the same writer and actors, but they can't keep the same lore throughout the movie. Don Mancini wrote every Chucky movie, from Child's Play to Cult of Chucky, so why did he feel the need to make it so inconsistent? Also, on the same vein, let's talk about Chucky's motivations. Again, the first 3 movies, his motivation is that he wants to get out of the doll's body and into a human body. Then in Seed of Chucky, he decides he likes being a killer doll and wants to stay in the doll body. This is the reason he and Tiffany have a falling out and he kills Tiffany, the doll. But then, all of a sudden, at the end of Curse, he possesses Alice, and by Cult, he wants to possess Nika. So what happened there? At least in Seed, he explained why he didn't want to transition into a human anymore, but apparently he changed his mind without explanation. So if I were to rank the movies from best to worst, I think I would probably put Bride of Chucky as number 1. Even though, yes, there was the whole amulet thing and the main characters bugged me, I still feel like that was the better movie, in my opinion. Second would be Seed of Chucky. Seed of Chucky is definitely in the same feel as Bride of Chucky. It's more humorous on the comedy side. I think then I would choose the original Child's Play. I think I said before, it's the original movie, it's the introduction of Chucky, it's his origin story basically, and it's the beginning of his and Andy's relationship. So for those reasons, I would put it at number 3. Not number 1, but definitely top 3. Fourth, I would say Child's Play 3, where Andy goes to military school. I definitely didn't think so before, but after re-watching all the movies, I feel that one definitely deserves to be in a higher rank than I originally thought. Fifth would be Child's Play 2. I like Child's Play 2 because it continues on the story from the original. It's more consistent, which is what I like, consistency, and there were elements in it that added to the story. Sixth, I would put probably Curse of Chucky. Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky are definitely in the bottom. They fell flat to me, personally. They had no character, no personality in those movies. And Cult of Chucky was just all over the place. It was really terrible. So yeah, that's the order I would put the movies in. Let me know what order you would put the movies in. Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree? Let me know. But anyway, that's all from Movie Review Monday for this week. Let me know what you think of this movie in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!